What's up, everybody? How we doing today? Welcome back to another live stream here on Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz with my guy, Nick NBA. We're here to break down this Celtics weekly live stream here as we saw the Boston Celtics make a move, Nick, earlier today. We're going to be breaking down, looking at that, looking at some other potential moves that the Celtics could be making coming up with this deadline. And obviously going over some other trades and other Celtics news as we look back at the week and look forward. Nick, how you doing, my guy? Welcome back to the show. Great to have you here once again.
I'm good, man. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate having you on here, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic to break down this Celtics team and go over it with you. And I hope you guys are all geared up and ready to ask your questions and to go over everything with us as well. So if you have anything, let us know down below in the comment section. But Nick, let's get it started off by talking about the hot topic of today, which was the Celtics making a trade. And I made a video, you made a video on it today. So if you guys want to check those out, definitely go follow Nick on YouTube at NikNBA as well to go check it out. But we saw the Celtics trade Jaden Springer and a 2030 protected pick to the Houston Rockets for basically nothing. Some heavily protected second round picks that we basically don't know of. A salary dump, if you want to say. So, for the fans that didn't really get to watch your video or haven't checked it out yet, what was your kind of thoughts on this? And give me what you think.
Yeah, so all the mock trades were was like we're trading him as a contract for a player, whether that player is like Javante Green, somebody else. It was always, hey, let's trade him for someone else. This trade, when I first saw, I was like, Houston, okay, who could we be get from Houston? And there was just no play involved. So I was like, okay, I see what this is. So, um, this was a penalty tax saving type of thing. They saved 15 million in the penalty tax, and they also opened up a roster spot. So now the Celtics only have 13 standard contracts, which is not allowed. It is allowed for a little bit. So if you guys are saying, hey, what should we do? What are we? The Celtics have to add somebody. So you can only have 13 players for 2 consecutive weeks. So the Celtics have to add somebody within 2 weeks. So whether that's a Javante Green trade, whether that's a guy like Torrey Craig who just got cut, it's a lot of different options. I don't know who, but I assure you that they literally have to make a move. So if you need something, the Celtics will do something at least.
That's the good thing to hear, at least that they have to make a move, obviously, because they only have 13 guys on the roster. But obviously, I think the main question everyone's kind of been trying to draw out is who are they going to get? And realistically, the question is nobody knows. As we know, Brad Stevens moves in silence. Sending him to Houston was kind of a weird team to send him to as well. Like, I know he's obviously going to thrive in a good defensive team with Ime Udoka, but once again, he's kind of in a rotation where Amen Thompson's there, Jalen Green's there, Fred VanVleet's there. There's a lot of other guards ahead of him as well. So he's still going to have to fight for that opportunity, similar like he would have to do with this Celtics team. But obviously, they could just take him into the non-taxpayer mid-level, I believe, is what they took him into. They just absorbed him into that
Mm.
contract, so it was a little bit easier for them to get a deal. The Celtics obviously save $15 million, but I would expect them to make a move at least to help them on this edges. I know that even though we are saving money, that this was kind of a conclusion that we kind of predicted from the start of the season with Jaden Springer's name being possibly tossed in trade rumors. But after his recent resurgence of being in the lineup, the Celtics need to address that and add some extra beef, I think, to this team with trading out Springer, regardless of who it is they bring in.
And yeah, the Celtics also create a TPE with
Oh
about
yes.
4 million. That TPE expires tomorrow, so
Hmm.
if they're gonna use that, they have to use it now. I know this isn't what you guys want to hear, but the move could be to convert a two-way deal into a standard contract. That will technically get them to 14 players. So whether that's Drew Peterson, Shady, but even though they can do that, they still have a roster spot open to trade or to sign. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of them. Hopefully it's not both of them, but yeah. So just to put that out there.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nick. I think a lot of people have also brought that up. I know a lot of other Celtics reporters have talked about the fact of them bringing JD or Drew Peterson up, and I think that's a very high possibility as we saw them do it with Kata last season. But I think it will be kind of like that 15th insurance roster spot. I feel like the Celtics at this point, even if it isn't a trade, we're using that TPE, which we know Brad Stevens loves to use them. Maybe that's why he traded Jaden Springer today to give him some little bit more going time on finding out who he can acquire with that TPE. But if not, possibly going like a guy like Chris Duarte or Torrey Craig on the buyout market, possibly even a guy like Lonnie Walker as well. I know a lot of Celtics fans have kind of brought up him as possibly being a guy that they could look at to bring in. Do you think that there's any other trade candidates on this Celtics team as well that could possibly get moved by the deadline, or do you think the Celtics are done with sending guys out?
I think that the person that we send out won't hold a lot of value even if we do send him out. So it's gonna be a guy like I don't even want to say this, but Tillman. It might be a guy like Tillman who to other NBA teams he's not really gonna be holding the value as far as a trade goes. It'll be Tillman plus second round picks or some shit like that. So I don't think the player is not gonna matter too much. It's not gonna be somebody that plays a lot. But yeah, I don't really see them like you were talking about like them going into the rotation like a Sam Hauser. I've been seeing people say it should have been Pritchard. Like, so I no, I just no. If it's I highly doubt that they're going to trade somebody that's firmly in the rotation.
Yeah, I agree. And I know a lot of Celtics fans saw that Jrue Holiday questionable before the Dallas Mavericks game, and they were, thinking, oh, maybe Jrue could get traded. No, nothing is going to happen to this top tier of this squad. They invested in it. That's why they moved a guy like Jaden Springer to save them the luxury tax now. They moved a guy on the lower end. And I agree with you. I think it only would be Xavier Tillman. I know a lot of people have thrown around, seen from different people, Yabusele, Taylor Horton Tucker, a lot of other, names out there that the Celtics could possibly go out there and get. I know you like Javonte Green. The Celtics could go out there and they could fit Javonte Green into that TPE, correct? He falls into that contract. So that would be nice as well for the Celtics to address that need. But like I think a lot of Celtics fans agree, they're going not only do they have to make a move, but it's nice to see that they are going to make a move to add at least something for this bench unit, something a little bit different that we can see to replace Jaden Springer.
Yeah, man, I agree. I agree, and I the Jaden Springer going to the Rockets makes so much sense for the Rockets for their coach, of course. Like he's a hard nosed defensive guy. So hopefully he gets an opportunity somewhere. I think it's gonna be super hard for him to get an opportunity with the Rockets. They have a lot of pieces. And they have guys. Reed Shepard, who they picked third overall, isn't even playing yet.
Yep.
So you know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure they would prioritize him over Springer. So I just want him to get an opportunity. He got some opportunity here. Um, so hopefully teams can see that and be like, oh, this guy can play. So yeah.
I agree with you. I think I kind of compared him to a guy similar in a situation to Aaron Neesmith from a couple seasons ago, where he's very good defensively and can show you those flashes when he's producing out there, but doesn't have the biggest leash to grow offensively with this team and to produce. So he has to go to another team now. Like you mentioned, Houston's a perfect fit. Jaden Springer is getting picked up by assistant coaches or coaches that are just going to fit his style or want him. Sam Cassell took him from the Sixers because he coached him. Now Ime Udoka's taking him from the Celtics because he thinks he's going to be a good defensive fit, and it is going to be tough for him to fight through that rotation. I completely forgot about Reed Shepard being in there as well. But for the Rockets, I think it's kind of just a pick to just kind of explore with this year. And then, like you said, I hope eventually he gets a shot in the NBA, gets an opportunity. I don't care if it's on like a Wizards or a Blazers or a Nets. I want him to be able to actually find a rotation role because I think if he can grow offensively, he could be a guy similar to Aaron Nesmith to where he could have a role, maybe not a standout player, but a role either as a bench guy or possibly as even a starter for a team.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
With that being said, obviously the Boston Celtics are doing some trades, but they're also been playing some games. And even though the trade deadline is, a major talking point, we're going to get into the Celtics as a core as well as Nick. They've been on a little bit of a hot streak recently, and that's been something nice to see, don't you think?
Yeah, man. It's pretty refreshing after, you know, them having like an extended stretch of games where they were playing mediocre, like they were like 13-13 in their last 26. That's just a stretch that we haven't seen since what 2022. Like it's been a
Yeah.
long time. So yeah, I like that the Celtics are finally catching a stride. They're playing with some more consistency. And last night, of course, beating the Cavaliers.
Exactly, and that's what you love to see is with this team just kind of getting back into the groove of things. I didn't really understand why a lot of Celtics fans I don't know if you saw this in your comment section as well, but over on social media, definitely just a lot of people freaking out, thinking this team was done. They needed to be, thinking that they were completely erased after just one little rut stretch. But ultimately, as we've seen with this squad, they can still beat some of the top tier contenders, and they're only, I believe, 4.5 games back from the Cavaliers. Which, if the Cavaliers look to do moves at the trade deadline, they definitely could get better. But I could see this Celtics team catching up to this Cavaliers team and competing with them. And even if they don't catch up to them and pass them as the 1 seed, being a 2 seed or a 3 seed, I still think the Celtics do have a fair advantage of dominating in the playoffs. With we know what this roster can already bring since we saw it last year.
Yeah, I'm just not really concerned about I'm not gonna say I wasn't concerned because it's just like we haven't seen them play like that for that long of a time. But it was not ever a concern of, oh, this team, like, we're not gonna get to the finals. We're not. No, I never, like, it's way too early, right? And I'm glad that that happened at that time and not in the playoffs or down the road in the season, like after the All Star shit. And this is like this is gonna happen. This I think the team last year spoiled us rotten,
Yep.
bro, because
Mm-hmm.
there was little bumps and there was so little bumps in the rock. I mean, Tatum could be out, Brown could be out, Porzingis could be out, and somewhere we still find a way to win by like 15 points against a good team, and that's just how it was last season, and that's just not how seasons are, right? That's just typically not like that. Shit was so rare. So for us to go through this, right, and come back on the other side of it, a team that we can trust, I really like that.
I think you hit that perfectly. I think you really spoke on it. 2 points, really delivering. Obviously, getting this rut kind of out now, not post All Star break, not in the playoffs, having this happen in this middle of the season. And I think you brought up another point too, where you said you definitely were a little concerned, and so was I. And I think specifically in the game versus the 76ers, watching that game, in the first couple quarters, just seeing them before they came back, it kind of was like, all right, we really were in a close game versus the Pelicans. We can beat a bad team versus the Bulls, but we're struggling versus Sixers team. Like, what is really happening? But after you see that comeback and that reassurance, you see the dominant performance versus the Cavaliers, you get that little bit of reassurance with this team. You know what I mean? And we can hold them accountable for doing that in the regular season and in the playoffs. And I think that that's what Celtics fans, like you mentioned, got spoiled last season. We were 100% spoiled. We had games where Jrue Holiday was shooting lights out from 3 point range. Al Horford last night just got, I think I saw a stat. It was like his first game with 10 points at halftime since the Raptors game back in December. Like over a month for that to happen, where Horford last year was having games where he'd have 15, 20 points at halftime. You know what I mean? Like it's just those little tweaks and changes, obviously, throughout the season with those guys getting a little bit older is obviously going to come through. But through it all in all, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, the emergence of Peyton Pritchard being really solid, Sam Hauser once he gets through these back issues, Porzingis now finally being in this lineup, and since being fully healthy after that Rockets game in January, being able to dominate and showcase his ability, I don't think there's anyone in this Eastern Conference at this moment that can realistically stack up to us. I think teams can challenge us and compete with us, but I don't think anyone can dethrone us at this moment.
Yeah, I'm not scared of anybody in the Eastern Conference. There are teams. Of course, there are teams like there's a tier of like who I think can challenge us. Of course,
Yes.
the Cavs will be in that. The Knicks will be in that.
Hmm.
The Bucks just got Kyle Kuzma, who isn't like a crazy name, but I think this season has like clouded a lot of people's thinking of who Kyle Kuzma is because he's just been playing down there with the Wizards. You know what I'm saying? Kyle Kuzma is a really good NBA player. Not enough to, but the Celtics can just go directly at Kyle Kuzma. So it's just like give or take. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. I'm the only team I'm worried about in the league really is the Thunder. When we get if we get to that point, and if they get to that point also, um, in the Eastern Conference, like it's not gonna be as easy as it was last season, of course. But I think the Celtics should be fine.
I agree. I think that this season it's obviously going to be a little bit more difficult. And those teams that you named, the Cavs, I think if the Magic find some little bit of shooting and can get out of their little bit of a rut too, maybe they could be a sleeper team as well in that mix. But I do have a question for you surrounding Kyle Kuzma because I know you're a DC native and you watch this Wizards team in occasion or pretty solid. You keep up with this Wizards team and because you're a big fan of the NBA and a lot of the hate on Kyle Kuzma has been this season because his shooting numbers, he hasn't been, playing as good, but we both know that they haven't been playing through Kyle Kuzma that much. They haven't been going through him. They've been playing through those younger guys. And Kuzma, in some recent spurts, has been able to showcase that now. Like you said, the Celtics can attack Kuzma, but I think that I don't think necessarily the Celtics should be worried or feared about a Kyle Kuzma addition. And I kind of spoke about that, but I definitely do think it is an upgrade for the Bucks. And I don't wouldn't be shocked if the Bucks look to move a guy like Bobby Portis because they have that extra size and maybe try to get like a little bit more of a wing type guy.
Yeah, Kyle Kuzma, like they're trying to get those young guys, some some playing time, right? And that's but the thing with Kyle Kuzma this season, I believe in a lot of the games that I've seen is that, he's taking away opportunities from those guys. So he's just being the player that he always is, but it's just not the same when you have Koulibaly, you have Keyshawn George, you have Carrington, you have Saad. These are guys who actually need these reps. And if Kyle Kuzma's going out there shooting 25 shots, it's taken away from the actual plan. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it's not that, you know what I'm saying? And then I think he's a little overtaxed with what he's doing over there too, because when he came there, it was because I remember this season where it was him, Porzingis, Gafford. You know what I'm saying? That was a pretty solid team before KP came here. And Kyle Kuzma is a great rebounder. He's a shooter. He can create off the dribble. He can catch and shoot. And Kyle Kuzma knows how to play a role, right? He was a guy that was the 27th pick. He came in, was scorching hot his first couple of years, and then when the Lakers got AD, they got Braun, and they went to a championship, he turned into a strict role player. And he's a guy that can play a role. I feel like Milwaukee would be good for Kyle Kuzma. Yeah, I would look if I was them. I would look to get some more defense because Dame, Kuzma, Bobby Portis, even Lopez is a good rim protector. But like, if we get him out in space in a pick and roll that's high, it's cooked food. So, excuse me. And yeah, I also like this deal. Dang, I need some water, boy. Um, also, if also I like this deal for the Wizards, of course, because they got a young guy in AJ Johnson who the Milwaukee Bucks just picked in the first round. I believe it was, Kuzma can't help them, of course, but I think that was a little early to trade AJ Johnson, who's really that young. I think he just showed a lot of stuff in their last game against OKC. I'm not sure if that was their last game, but it was a recent game where the Bucks they were getting crushed, and he came in for some time and he was cooking. So I I like that for the Wizards. They still have a lot of guards. They just traded Valanciunas. But a guy like Brogdon is still there, and every time that he plays, he shows that he can play. Poole, of course, is a guy that I think is going to be there for a long time. But yeah, Kyle Kuzma should help them. They should look to get some more defensive help though.
I agree, and I not that I want this to happen, but I kind of just thought about this while you were talking. If the Suns or not the Suns, excuse me, if the Warriors really want to get Jimmy Butler now that they can't get Kevin Durant, possibly doing a deal where they were to get Jimmy Butler, I think that the Milwaukee Bucks should try to get into that conversation and possibly try to pry a guy like Andrew Wiggins for a team not to go to Miami, try to go to them and maybe offer a guy like Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, because now they're underneath the second apron. They can aggregate salaries. They can have a little bit more movement.
Mm.
And another bright part that you brought as well with the Wizards is exactly. I like the addition of AJ Johnson. I believe Keyshawn George. I saw a tweet from a Wizards beat reporter. They have now four players from the 2024 draft with AJ Johnson, Keyshawn George,
Mm.
Sar, and Bub. So they're really investing into this youth group. They also just got City Sissoko, who was in last year's
Yes.
draft class, I believe, alongside Bilal.
Yeah.
Or 2 seasons ago, maybe. I don't know when City was drafted, but I know him and Bilal are younger as well. So adding all this young talent, even though it's not Bilal has showed some progress. Some of those guys have Sar, Keyshawn, even though it's not like a bona fide star. It's a lot of projects, a lot of guys that could potentially tap out, could find a role, could find a home. And that's what I think is what these young teams should be doing. So I'm really, really liking the direction that the Wizards are finally going, like going, investing into that full rebuild, finally going to bottom out, finding, just fine tuning some of these guys. And yeah, it may take 3, 4, 5 years to truly figure out who can be your star, but I really like that move.
And there's also like they still have guys that they can trade. Like Corey
Mm-hmm.
Kispert is a
Yes.
younger guy, but
Yes.
Kispert is like a good role player. Like he can help somebody. He can shoot the lights out. And again, a guy like Malcolm Brogdon, who of course
Yep.
shouldn't be on that team as of
Yep.
right now. He hasn't played a lot, but I remember his first game of the season against us. Like he played like he didn't miss any time. Like he was
Yep.
just cooking us. So yeah, they still have some things to do, and I'm glad that they have embraced this tank of like, especially this season, because I was so disappointed when the Wimby year happened, and
Mm-hmm.
then they decided to tank in the off season when it was too late. Like
Yep.
they decided to trade Bradley Beal and all that shit. So it was just, I'm just glad they're finally doing the right thing.
Same here. I'm glad that they're finally pivoting to that direction and finally embracing the tank and finally going through with it because I think that's what the fans have been wanting to see and kind of, just finally stripping it down, finally going down with that. We also saw some more trades as well. Kind of connecting with the Jonas Valanciunas one, the Wizards once again just getting more young talent moving off of Jonas Valanciunas. A little bit of a weird fit with Jonas going over to uh, Sacramento, but helps with rebounding, I guess.
Yeah, I think they got smaller. Not smaller. They're just a smaller team in general. Um, I guess the one would be what Monk,
Yeah.
Levine, DeRozan, Keegan, and Sabonis. I believe the backup center is Alex Lynn. They've been playing some Isaac Jones, but he's also like a smaller type of big. So Val can play a role for like 15 or so minutes a night. He's not a guy that's gonna play like a lot, you know what I'm saying? But he's a bruiser. He's a guy that can of course get some of those rebounds. He can just play tough. But yeah, I don't really I'm not really enthused by what the Kings are. Yo, what's good, bro? Oh,
No, but I was just saying
yeah,
what's
my
up.
son loves this. Oh yeah, what's up? I'm not really too enthused by what the Kings are doing, if I'm being quite honest. Um, I think trades should bring a sense of direction. Um, and although the Kings are saying that, hey, we still want to be competitive, I don't agree with the direction, nor do I. Um, but like I can kind of understand it because the Kings weren't in the playoffs for what 20 years. So I understand that, hey, you trade De'Aaron Fox and you're getting a player that you can still have a solid team with. So I completely understand that. It's just I would have liked to see them go in a different direction. It would be super hard to just like sell all those pieces, especially this close to the trade thing. So um yeah, I like Val Linchunas. It gives them a more solidified backup five. But again, they're just going with all offense. They're only what above average defenders are Keon Ellis. I guess Keegan, but Keegan has been off this season. I like Devin Carter. He projects to be an above average defender, but other than that, it's just gonna be basically the same team.
Yeah, I see it as the Sacramento Bulls because they got Zach Levine, DeMar DeRozan. I mean, you got an upgrade with Sabonis over Vucevic, in my opinion. But besides that, Keegan Murray, not a similar player like Patrick Williams, but has, had a great season his first year, then, hasn't had a little bit of a rough stretch this last year and a half, so hasn't been that great. Malik Monk, very similar to like a Kobe White type point guard, just a very, very similar type of team comparative wise. But I agree. I think they should have stripped it down, but I think the valid point that you brought up is they haven't made the playoffs in 20 years. I think the front office would rather make the playoffs and at least be in the playoffs than not be and have the fans disappointed. I think that they'd rather they're kind of reminding me of the Victor Oladipo, Indiana Pacers, where they'd rather just
Hmm.
make the playoffs and be the sixth seed and with Nate McMillan and be happy and just be there. But that's it. That's it. You know what I mean? And that's all that's selling the tickets, it's making some money, but that's basically all they would want to do.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. But especially in the Western Conference, where like they're gonna be what in that 8 to 11 range almost every single season, and it's just kind of tough out there.
And it's tough because now you're sacrificing yourself with Zach Levine's contract. So if you thought it was already hard for the Bulls to trade and get assets for, now try moving off of it in 2 years. It's going to be very difficult. So that's kind of where I stand with that.
Yeah, but like Zach, as we say that, that's true. And he's also like at the beginning of the season, it was if you want to trade Zach Levine, you gotta attach some draft capital. Zach, Zach Levine has played so good this season. He's played like an all-star to where
Hmm.
now that's not true. But it's also doesn't mean you're gonna get like a great young player or something for him. Um, I just think that the Kings made a lateral type of move. Either they get marginally worse or either they get marginally better. They haven't been playing better under Doug Christie, but it's just gonna be the same old shit to me.
Yeah, they have been playing a little bit nice, but I agree with you. I think they're going to be in that 8 to 11 range in the Western Conference, similar to where they were last year. If they make the playoffs, they play against the Oklahoma City Thunder, or they play against the Houston Rockets or Memphis Grizzlies. Could be a fun series, but I don't necessarily know if they're going to be able to pull that one and come out victorious. But for the Celtics, we can dive back in and get into them. Like we were talking about, this little 4 game win streak has been very, very solid for this team, Nick. And I'm very, very happy to see the Celtics team go on this 4 game win streak. Out of these 4 games that you kind of pay attention to and watch, what really stood out to you with this Celtics team versus these couple games?
These couple games they found ways to win. Of course, like a team against the Pelicans and injury, riddle team like the Pelicans, you just rather them not go that deep into the game and
Yep.
have to fight out and get a Tatum shot at the end of the game. But they're finding ways to end up on top of those games, and that's a valuable thing because you need to win. That not something that I should have to say, but you need to win these games, whether they're pretty, whether they're ugly. You need to win these games, and something else, especially in the Cavs game, was like I'm seeing a lot more like post ups. I'm seeing post ups from everybody. I'm seeing what Jaylen Brown started the game with like what the first 12 points,
Yep.
and majority of those were him inside. They were screening they were screening Garland a lot in that game, and whoever was on him, they went straight to the post. So I think when you have the balance of okay, you're taking the most threes, but you also have guys like Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis, and even Horford, who you said had like 10 points in the first half. It was him and Cornette, him and Porzingis, the size that the Celtics had in those terms and those stretches were really effective. So yeah, I like that the Celtics are bringing a balance. Also, Derrick White has started to act like himself again. The guy that's bailing us out constantly. He did that last night against the Cavaliers, and yeah, man, I just like that the Celtics seem to have more of a balance in their attack on the offensive side of the ball.
I agree, and we saw them come out alive defensively too last night. I think that's been one of the major critiques with the Celtics team in the 2025 calendar year. This season, they've been a very good defensive team, but since the new year, there have been a lot of critiques with their defensive ability, with these other teams also just catching red hot versus as well, like Dylan Brooks 10 threes, Trey
Yeah,
Murphy going off, like some stuff that you just like can't write up. And Trey Murphy is good. You got to give him his credit, but a game like that is only going to happen versus the Celtics team. Like obviously when they're depleted, like it's just our luck. But I think with the Cavaliers game, you really mentioned it early. Like Jaylen Brown getting really, really involved early on, working in the post, and those double bigs with Horford, with Cornette, with Porzingis really help versus these taller teams like the Cavaliers as well. Evan Mobley was basically like eliminated yesterday. Luke Cornette was on him. He had no chances of doing anything. He was making bad passes, making bad reads. It was really, really solid to see Luke Cornette be able to play that defense. Horford really step up. And I'm really liking what I see out of these double big lineups. I know Joe has experimented with it a little too far sometimes with that Tillman Cato lineup that we saw a couple games ago. I don't know if that was this
Nah.
week, but some of the I like the double big lineup in some instances when the Celtics are going up against teams when they need the necessary size, when they need that necessary rebounding. But when it's not necessarily needed versus a team like the Cavs, I like to have the spacing and to have them separated in stints.
Bro, that shit was not Tillman Cater. It was Tillman Cater Springer and like Walsh. I'm like, dude, are they trying to kill my superstar? Like, what the hell is going on right here? But not yet. I like Cornette has been really good this season. Like really good this season. It's almost surprising how good he's been because we knew that in these past couple of seasons that he was a guy that was a solid backup. You know what I'm saying? He could be a guy to be a third center, but he is like he's really good, bro. He's really good for what he plays, and he protects the rim. Of course, they love him because he's a great passer. In that short roll, I remember there was a play early where Tatum got trapped on it, and he was in the short roll. He kicked it out to Sam Hauser for the three. He makes those reads and stuff like that. He protects the rim. Celtics fans are still clamoring for him to shoot the ball. That's just not who he is anymore. Again, I don't know why because I remember when they first traded for Luke, there was a game against OKC and he hit like two threes and everybody was like, "Oh shit!" Like it's a real stretch big in this zone. But I like how he plays now. He's an excellent screener. Screening. He flips the screens really effectively. And he gets Tatum wide open pull up threes and stuff of that nature. So shout out to Luke on that.
Yeah, not only does he complement this team perfectly, plays fantastically as that backup big, but he's not only on a cheap contract and just a great teammate, locker room guy to have. Like he's always full of bundle of joy. Just I was talking about this with my mom earlier today when we were talking about his contract, when we were talking about the Springer trade, so she could kind of get some understanding about it. And she was like, Luke just seems like the guy that's just happy to be there, happy to have some fun with the team and just enjoy it for the memes. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. That's why he re-signed. That's why he didn't take the more money. He just wants to be with this team more and more, and he just enjoys it. And he fits that role perfectly. And I think you hit it home perfectly. I think Luke Cornett to me has been the most impressive Celtic this season. Peyton Pritchard had that really big rise in the beginning at that 6 Man of the Year campaign, and he's still living up to it, having a great season. But Luke Cornett has been so consistent as that backup big. And we were talking last year him potentially being a third big. I thought he could potentially leave this team to be competing for a backup big, but I think at this rate he's solidified himself as a backup big in this league, regardless if it's with the Celtics next team, but next year, regardless if it's somewhere else in the future. I would love for him obviously to stay here. I think he loves to be here, but next season I could see him being the Celtics backup big man for on a like 2 3 year deal if they felt comfortable doing that and keeping him because of how consistent he has been.
Yeah, I think we need to get that out the way now. I think we just need to give him that little 2 3 years, 7 million. Just
Yep.
go ahead, slide the papers to him right now and see what he say, man. Cause he said it in the before the season. He was like, "Hey, Luke, why'd you come back?" He was like, "I love it here." You know what I'm saying? It's just it is what it is. So if we could get Luke a little bit more bread, but for a longer time, I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah, I think we should definitely reward him for his play and for, just the loyalty he's also had for the team and his love for the city of Boston. And there's also been some other great, standout players for this Celtics team. One of them last year, more consistent than this year, has been Sam Hauser. Now, obviously, he's been dealing with some issues, but there's been some rhythms with Sam Hauser where he's hit some big shots in some big games. People are saying he's back, you know what I mean, getting into the comfortability of things. What's your thoughts on Sam Hauser for this season?
Yeah, it was kind of hard to judge Sam at the beginning of the season with that back injury. You know, you just that is one of the more intricate parts of the body. Like that is something that even doctors haven't perfected yet. Like
Yep.
the back is such a gruesome thing. So I didn't want to really judge Sam, but yeah, he just hasn't been as consistent. It could be because of that injury. It could be something else, but it's good to see Sam Hauser hitting shots. Like when he is a specialist, we need our specialist to do his specialist type things. So when he's shooting threes, because he shoots what 85% of his shots are threes. So if he's not hitting threes that doesn't help him. It doesn't help us. And there have been some nights where Pritchard is like off, and when Sam comes in and can hit 3 or 4 shots, that really helps us. So I think Sam has been I think Sam has been up and down this season. Hopefully, these last couple of games can help him get into a hot streak.
I hope so too, and I really want to see him really grow with this team. We obviously see the organization believe in him with giving him that extension last season, obviously in the summer. But I also agree with you. I think the one like hole for this Celtics team offensively has been when either Pritchard or Sam is not playing, or when one of them is cold for this night for this bench. And I think that's where the Celtics in this trade deadline, obviously by moving Jaden Springer, maybe got rid of a little bit more of defense, but might be looking to add some specialized offense on the wing or possibly in the guard rotation to kind of bring that back. A guy that I do want to talk about who hasn't gotten a lot of run in this rotation, has gotten some sporadically, is Jordan Walsh. And ultimately, I think I would love to see him get some playoff minutes. I'd love to see him get into the rotation. I'd love to see him compete. But I don't know if it's going to happen this season. Do you think the Celtics kind of prioritize another veteran over him? Because that's where I'm kind of leaning. Even if that's not what I want them to do, I think that's what the direction's kind of heading.
Yeah, I think they'll try to look for a veteran for the rest of this season and for the playoff run over Walsh. But I I guess I agree. But like when Jordan Walsh was a part of the rotation, like we were clamoring for him to
Mm.
be in the rotation. Like if he was, like if he played and it was like, all right, he's not ready yet. That's fine. He's 21 years old. That's fine. But when he was playing good, providing energy, he is a above average defender already. And if he hits his shots, man, he we have a 3 and D energy guy that crashes the glass too, um, right off the jump. So I think the Celtics will prioritize a an older guy just for the rest of this season. But I think if Walsh takes a jump in the offseason, he can really be that guy.
I agree, and I really want to see him. I think you kind of hit it home. I think he brings that energy, that offensive rebounding, similar to what O'Shea brought kind of last season, but has that little bit more of a knockdown 3-point shot. Maybe not like a mixture of Grant Williams and O'Shea Brissett, maybe I don't know, but some sort of combination of a 3-point shooting, rebounding, aggressive big. And I think a lot of Celtics fans, including both of us and other ones out there, want to see Walsh kind of get into that rotation, kind of get in there. For the Celtics team, though, they obviously are on a 4-game win streak. They beat the Chicago Bulls in a, pretty easily handed game there. They didn't have Zach LaVine in that one before he got traded. Then the Pelicans one was a little scary. Like we mentioned, Trey Murphy was going off. The Sixers was a big comeback. Before we get into the future, what were your thoughts on that comeback game here for the Celtics versus the Sixers? That 26-point comeback, I believe, was the biggest comeback this season in the NBA.
Yeah, man. It's just like it's tough when you have those type of games because if the Celtics come out on top, people act like you have to forget what just happened or forget them getting down 26, man. If I let somebody into my home and I say, "Hey, you can cook," and they start a fire, but they put it out, I'm supposed to just say, "Oh, it's okay. You just start." Like, nah, you supposed to take what just happened, assess it. You're glad that it didn't hurt you, but that's something that has to be talked about. And the Celtics even said it that they talked at halftime and was like, "Hey, are y'all trying to play or not? Because I can sit y'all." You know what I'm saying? So even they were like, "Hey, this is unacceptable. We have to play defense. We have to play with some energy." But the main takeaway, especially from that fourth quarter, was Jayson Tatum. Like that might have been one of the best quarters I've seen from Tatum as far as like all around play. I mean, hitting threes, the side step three, it came in the fourth quarter. Then on the defense side of the ball, guarding Tyrese Maxey, guarding Yabusele, who's like what 50 pounds heavier. Like he can do everything. He's so versatile. He was passing, he was rebounding, getting the ball and going straight up the court and getting into those high pick and rolls and just getting downhill and putting pressure on the defense. So Tatum, especially in that second half, was my takeaway.
See, the crazy thing is I don't understand how people can watch those games, right? In the playoffs, in the regular season, because we've seen it multiple times as fans where Tatum has taken over in the fourth quarter, has been clutch, has been able to really lead this team. I don't know how people can say he's not clutch, how he's not one of these top players if he can do stuff like that and really take over. Like you said, just absolute pure domination for Tatum in the second half, really helping out this Celtics team. And he's done this multiple times. Not this season, it was a little bit earlier on in the season. We saw him in those shooting strides, really dominating, taking over the quarters. And that's where a lot of Celtics fans are like, Jayson Tatum needs the ball more. We need to play ISO ball more with Tatum. And it's if you look at the usage ratings and you look at the stuff, you see that the team is better with Tatum on the court, regardless of who he's on with the court. Even if he's with the bench mob, the numbers are high because Jayson Tatum is not only just scoring, but like you said, rebounding, facilitating, setting up the offense, making the right moves for this team as that initiator. And you just love to see that in these takeovers. And I'm hoping that I'm not hoping. I know we will see it throughout the regular season. Him and Jaylen Brown, Derrick White, obviously really red hot and back. Porziņģis really striving with this lineup. Really take over and start to ascend in this Eastern Conference.
Yeah, the usage rate talks were just kind of annoying because
It's
I don't really care
ridiculous.
about the usage rate. I care about the amount of times he's aggressive when he has the ball in his hand.
Hmm.
So he can have a 100% usage rate, but if he's taking half court threes, it doesn't mean anything, right? So all I talk about is pressure, right? If you have it, if he has the basketball and he puts pressure on the defense, that could be him driving, that could him be causing switches and having a small on him or a tall on him, like a guy that's slower, right? That shifts the defense so much. A simple Jayson Tatum drive does so much for the Celtics team, and it sends the defense into a frenzy every single time. So it's not just his usage rate; it's within that, how many times is he actually putting pressure on the defense? That's what I'm worried about.
Well, I think you hit that too. Like his aggressiveness, excuse me, while going downhill, like you mentioned, brings so much pressure from other defenders that makes it so much easier for them to get other opportunities. That's why the driving kick is so successful with this team, and that's why you see multiple ball movements around it with it as well. It just adds so much to this Celtics element of offense when they are doing that. And if he's just sitting there catching the ball, dribbling it 20 times, taking a jump shot, that's disrupting the rhythm of the team as well.
Yeah, man. Yeah, yeah. He's just the team goes as he goes, right?
Hmm.
So when Tatum isn't aggressive, that everybody has to step up. So that's Pritchard has to probably score 20 points. Jaylen Brown has to handle it a little bit more than he should, right? That means Porzingis probably has to, the Celtics have to force it into him a couple more times than they should. But it's so obvious when Tatum is aggressive, everybody falls in line. When Jayson Tatum does what he's supposed to in that fourth quarter, right? Everybody else on the court on the Celtics team were role players, but this all of us is like Jaylen Brown is an all star. Porzingis can play like an all star. Derrick White can play like an all star. Jrue Holiday is a Swiss Army knife guy that does damn near everything, right? But when Tatum is aggressive and he is his top five self, everybody falls in line, and it makes their jobs easier when he's doing his job.
100%, and it makes the team as well just function easier as well when he's taking that command, when he's taking over for this team as that star. It frees up everybody as well to make easier plays and make smarter moves. But with this team, we obviously know that we talked about last week, but they have a future as well. Because even though with the trade deadline going around, Nick, there still are games coming up on the calendar. The Celtics aren't on tonight. They played yesterday versus the Cavs, but they do have their finals rematch, even if it's not full finals team versus the Dallas Mavericks tomorrow. Then they go to New York on Saturday, take on one of their top competitors. Then they take on Miami, a rival on Monday on the road, which could have a shakeup, could have Jimmy Butler still there, could possibly not, who knows. Then they play the San Antonio Spurs. De'Aaron Fox once again back in TD Garden, Chris Paul, Victor Wembanyama, amongst others. When you look at those four games, I have two questions for you. One, which game stands out to you the most? And secondly, what's your record prediction for those four games?
The Spurs. I want to see them play the Spurs. Victor, of course, is the is the attraction, right? But we play them twice a year. We haven't played them yet this year, right?
I don't believe so, no.
Right. So we need to see them, and then they're also De'Aaron Fox should be playing by that time. If he's not playing tonight, I'm not sure, but I seen him warming up before the Atlanta game. But I really want to see that team. I think they can cause us some problems, of course, with that tall guy. But it's just like the Knicks are also a team that we need to to establish ourselves against. Heat, yeah, it's a lot of uncertainty with the Heat, but Kale Ware has been playing amazing. Jovic is starting to hit a little stride, and that is a very tall team. So we have to, well, not a tall team, but with Jovic, Kale Ware, and Bam, that front court could give us some problems with their size and their versatility. And yeah, the Knicks. You said the Mavericks. Yeah, man, we don't. I mean, we don't really know who's gonna be playing in that game, so it is what it is. But I think we at the. Mm, I think we'll go undefeated in that stretch, but one loss is acceptable. I'm cool with that.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say I think they might sprinkle one loss. I don't know necessarily which one it could be because, like we said, even though they're playing the Dallas Mavericks with who knows, knows who's on that team. Excuse me, they could still lose that game because it is the Boston
Yeah.
Celtics, and we've seen them this season. But I expect them to kind of go on a nice little win streak here. I think San Antonio. I did check; they have not played San Antonio yet. They play them in March in San Antonio, so it'll be nice to see them take on Victor Wembanyama for the first time. Miami, depending on how they make any moves, might not even have guys ready to play for them, depending on the moves that they make. But I'm excited to see them kind of get into these matchups here and finish out the rest of the season. After the trade deadline kind of ends, I'm excited for the rest of the regular season, but I get amped for the playoffs at that point. My brain is ready to go. And with this Celtics team, we know, knocking on wood here, they'll make the playoffs. They'll be consistent. So we'll get to see some good playoff run, and that's what I'm very excited for.
Yeah, man, I totally agree.
All right. And before we sign off, I do got some more questions for you, Nick, as we got some people in the chat asking some stuff. We got my boy Josh talking about Luke Cornett balling. We got our guy Cash Out Abu asking, Daron Sharp
What's
or
good? What's
Lonnie
good?
Walker could be great on this team. What are your thoughts on those guys? As I think those two guys could be potential guys the Celtics could look at.
Yeah, I don't mind either of those guys. I just as far as Dayron, he's a undersized guy, but he can block shots, a rebounder. I just don't think the Celtics go for big, even though I think it can be upgraded. I just think they have too many bigs that they've that they have in here. Porzingis, Al Horford, Cornette, Kada, even the Tillman. Like, of course, like Tillman hasn't been what we thought he would be. Kada has had some stretches this season. Obviously, those guys can be upgraded upon. I just don't think they're gonna get a guy like Tayron. I wouldn't mind him, of course. As far as Lonnie, I think that in those games like we talked about, where Pritchard could be cold, Hauser could be cold, and the games where Pritchard is not scoring, it shows that our bench like we need scoring, right? And for a guy like Lonnie who doesn't have to play every night, right? It's in games where we need a punch. He's gonna come in for a stint. If he's playing good, he'll continue to play. If he doesn't, he won't. There's no real risk with bringing him in. So I like the stuff that he did in the preseason. He understands that he has to buy in on the defensive side if he wants to play with us. And then he had a really good showing his last preseason game. I think he dropped with like 20, and then we cut him. So it is what it is. But I wouldn't mind either of those guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind either of them. I think you kind of hit it home that them needing that offensive punch might be a little bit more needed than that extra big, regardless of what they decide to do with Xavier Tillman, because they have Porzingis, Horford, Cornett, and Kata already on the roster. So I think them adding either guard or wing, even if it's a like shooting guard slash wing, not a point guard slash wing, is for offense could be a move that they are more prioritizing than anything most. But we'll have to see, regardless if it's via trade, regardless if it's via buyout, if it's via I don't even know how another way they could get somebody out or calling up a guy via the two-way. There, that's the last one. They'll figure out a way to obviously fill out this 14th roster spot. I wouldn't expect them to fill out this roster spot immediately either. Like you said, they have 14 days. So I would expect them, even after the trade deadline, to still have 13 roster spots. It's not like they're necessarily going to need those guys playing up against Dallas tomorrow. I think that they will evaluate to see who gets bought out, because there will be, ripple effects after the deadline with some guys getting waived and stuff like that for trades to go through. So there might be more targets available for the Celtics, a better target that they would want to add to this team, and I think that's the way that they're going to go. Is there anything else that you would like to add about the trade deadline or anything else about this Celtics team, Nick, before we sign off?
I think I'm good, man. I'm just really excited to see what these deals are tomorrow. We got a long stream tomorrow, which should be really fun. Just talking about all the trades and hopefully getting some huge breaking stuff while we're on there. But yeah, the Celtics. I'm excited for them to keep up this good play, and of course, the trade deadline is always an exciting time. Um, to me, it's one of the more impactful portions of the season. So just hopefully we get some more stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm being greedy because we got a Luca trade, a D Fox trade. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of trades already. We got the craziest trade in NBA history. So I would be still disappointed if nothing happens. But looking back at it, it's just like, man, this was a crazy trade deadline.
Yeah, I don't think anything could top this trade deadline in our lifetime in the NBA, maybe even in all of sports with the trades that we've seen so far. But like you said, we want to see some more exciting stuff. Maybe a Kevin Durant, maybe a Jimmy Butler, who obviously knows. But if it's just some smaller stuff, it'll be nice to break that down. Nick and I will be live tomorrow on Playback, going over for the Peach Basket for stuff on the NBA trade deadline. So if you want to come check us out, we'll be with a bunch of other creators as well. We'll definitely be posting about that on our socials. But I want to say, shout out to Nick once again for hopping on Celtics Digest with us for the stream. It was absolutely fantastic to have him on as a guest, and we'll definitely be seeing him in the future with the Celtics leading up after this trade deadline, gearing up for the playoffs. We'll definitely be chatting some more. But once again, guys, thank you guys for tuning in to the stream, for hanging out with all of us here tonight on this weekly live stream episode here on Celtics Digest, where we looked at Jaden Springer trade, some possible other trades, went in the Celtics' future for the week, and looked at the past week. We do appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Have a great rest of your day, and go Boston Celtics.
Appreciate that.